Hi, Epiphany. This is your Venus reading. We're going to be looking at Venus from a financial perspective, and this is going to go deep into utilizing Venus with your archetype as well so that you have an even deeper understanding of how this energy works. So, Venus is where you are appreciated, and you have Venus in Leo, which is a very profound and clearly ego driven sign. So, there's a lot of appreciation that you actually need, as well as need to be given, in the sense that this is a place where Venus can be at her highest glam. She can be very luxurious, opulent in the space of appreciation. And one of the things that you can often find with Venus and Leo is that it's basically Venus and the Sun energy, so things can get a little too hot. And sometimes when things get too hot, it will actually negate some of the greatness that Venus can bring. So this means basically looking at why sometimes Venus and Leo can repel certain things. And this happens through really that oversized sense of self, but not in the way that is basically like it can be very ego driven. And sometimes the ego needs to be very healthy, but if it is overly done, sometimes one can find themselves in not such a really confident space. And of course, the cliche version of this is somebody who has so much ego that they can't see other people and other people's needs. And why is this not good for the person? Because other people can, they can be feeling a certain way or whatever, but for the person, you can actually lose sense of your natural self, and get lost in the ego self. And Venus is very much so self-absorbed already. So in Leo, this could be like the best word that I think is not natural, because the ego self, especially overly inflated and grandiose, will find itself lost in a kind of version of oneself that actually doesn't appease other people. And this is not the version that we really love out of people. And this is not to say that we don't love, sometimes we could get lost. Like people might love somebody who's self-sacrificing. That's not really what I'm saying. I'm saying that in the hardness of over a very hot ego, this person gets disconnected from everyone else. And they forget that it's everyone else that they need to love and be appreciated from. So some places of this could be someone who can heat themselves up, right? They don't need other people to adore or admire them. And while that is a very good thing, because you need that confidence, there's like an extremism where it's that we don't need people at all. Sometimes that can happen here. So Venus in the fire signs becomes extremely independent. Venus in Aries can be overtly independent and actually show the ugly side of her, because Venus can be arrogant, not recognizing that she needs other people's resources, other people's identities to really understand her own. Well, in the sign of Leo, it's the same way. Like Venus can become very much egotistical, that she thinks that only her ego is the only one, and it limits Venus, because it's like wearing the same outfit every day in a lot of ways. So you're looking for the various faces of yourself, the various shades that you are, so that the ego can be well balanced and be happy being confident, but not overly confident. There's another version of Venus in Leo, which I think a lot of people may not realize, but it's very strong here, which is to be shy. And shyness, or somebody who does not like, it's the opposite of that grandiose. It's more covert, it's more behind the scenes. That type of shyness also is very ego driven, but the ego is kind of scared to thrive in front of other people. It kind of hides itself. And so it's the same idea in Leo, where Venus needs to find balance in being of oneself, but also understanding the various versions of yourself that you can be, the various egos that you can take on, because that frees Venus into a space where you can be bright among other people and not feel like you are the brightest one, or that other people's brightness might outshine you. So it's quite an interesting space for Venus and Leo. And so the appreciation is coming from other people. Having the acceptance of appreciation from other people is really the goal of Venus and Leo, so that you can feel like that royalty. And if Venus is in upper echelons, like spaces where there are people who might be above you for some sort of hierarchical reason, right? Presidents and entertainers, things like that, people who might be even well known, for you to be able to be as bright in the same room as them, right? Or not feel like you are in competition with other great people. This is where Venus and Leo really gets her appreciation. So the confidence of having a strong ego amongst other strong egos, all of that is really the appreciation that Venus needs. And this is when your value starts to rise as well. So the work with Venus financially is about self-worth, recognizing one's value. This is why appreciation is such an important word for Venus. When you think about certain jobs, like checking in on homes, making sure homes are ready to be sold, that you would have someone who would appreciate the house. They would create a dollar amount to the state and condition of the house. That's what Venus is doing here in Leo. But that's also what Venus is doing in the ninth house. So with the ninth house energy, Venus is also looking to see what are the things that I can appreciate. In Leo, it's I appreciate other people, other profound people being around me and me sharing that same space with them. In the ninth house, it's actually connected to belief sets. And so Venus being a peacemaker really becomes very valuable, because a lot of people struggle with this. If they come from a different belief set, it's hard for them to share the same space with someone who has a different religious position than they do. So Venus in the ninth house creates someone who's like a peacemaker amongst various divisions of belief when it comes to God and our connection to our outer human selves. So Venus is doing a lot of work in your chart, because really the energy of Venus is way more demure, peaceful, graceful. But because Venus is in a fire sign and in a fire house, Venus is working overtime. So a lot of this energy is really about movement and action, and when to make the right moves and decisions as well. This is based off of a self-concept. So if someone has a not great self-concept of themselves, like I was saying, someone who's shy, then when they take moves and actions, it will only just be short of being shy, right? They won't really penetrate or be amused to other people if they are stuck in that version of their ego. So Venus here needs to figure out how to thrive amongst people of different egos, of different religious belief sets, and become a muse to those types of people and those basically divisions of life. So this could be a very angelic space, really, because you're learning how to take action based off of your higher self. And you'll also have to check your higher self, because Venus here can have a spiritual ego. That's a really good way to combine Leo in the ninth house. A really healthy spiritual ego will be able to accept all kingdoms as living as one. A unhealthy spiritual ego may try to overpower a kingdom, right? Take down or annihilate other kingdoms. This comes specifically to people who come from different religious backgrounds or cultural backgrounds and things like that. So a lot of your actions have to be purified here. And this is going to help you to find the grace that is really happening. It's like a warrior's grace, or like a warrior's sword of mercy. The way that you move with Venus here is very strong, passionate, and it can be swift movement, right? But also is deeply connected to humanity, and how is it that humanity can be peaceful, right? It's like Venus at a party. The ninth house could also be considered a party. Leo could be a very fun energy. There are parties where everybody just has a good time, and then there are parties where people they drink too much, they get into fights and things like that. So Venus, this is my metaphor of how Venus is working in these fire signs and houses for you. And so finances and financials, income, all of that is based off of a need for excitement that Venus has here, a need to bring peace to the excitement, but not dull out the excitement. And this can be applied to any situation that you're in, a job or income situation. Even if you're in, for example, a dentist's office, because a dentist's office, for example, could be very intimidating. This could be a place where people don't really want to come, they have to be there, right? So Venus can learn how to bring the party to a situation like that. And imagine if you're working in that dental office and you are able to bring that energy of positivity and a party in a dental office. That creates extreme value. People don't realize that Venus is very much so seen, but it's also hidden because it's feminine. And behind the beauty of a really good doctor's visit probably has a lot to do with the atmosphere, the positivity that one brings. So, and then it becomes something that people could even look forward to doing. When you're able to apply these things, they're so simple, but it really can shift your value. And quite often, it is a very subtle shift that Venus makes, one that takes you into this graceful dance versus disgraceful. And this is the other thing that I would say about Venus is recognizing grace and disgrace in its position. And this helps to evoke value even more, make value even more dominant and prominent. Therefore, you're not controlling how people move and act. You're being a muse and attracting people to move and act towards you. Like I said, Venus in this position is very much so taking action herself. So the actions that you're taking are also based off of disgraceful actions and graceful actions. Going back to the idea of a very hot ego, for you to recognize that you may get yourself really heated, really upset at times is a natural part of your humanity. But the Venus part of you will be able to say things like, okay, I'm upset right now. Let me take a moment and gather myself together or figure out why I'm upset, right? So Venus in this placement helps you to not eliminate the versions of yourself, because a big ego is great because it helps you to find the true balance of the ego. So it's not like you want to eliminate these things, but you want to basically refine them. And that's when and Venus is also deeply connected to refinement. And this is how value starts to settle in. You could be someone who goes from always acting in a dramatic sense for the sake of the drama versus acting in a dramatic sense to help people see how fun life is. And there are two different things, but they're very nuanced, because a person who gets lost in drama becomes, the good person, the bad person, the enemy. They're just lost in the drama. They're kind of just like everybody else. But somebody who recognizes that the drama is happening gets to actually manipulate in their way how the drama can help them out, how it can help other people out. So Venus in Leo is very formal. It's very self-aware at its highest potential. It's self-aware of its own ego, because once you see, oh, I am also part of the drama, that's when you have more of the power to evoke more value and recognize, okay, how do I want to make these things turn out? So Venus here is especially in the ninth house, not connected to fate being the tell all, not allowing fate to be the runner of the show, but not also controlling everything either. Venus is simply shifting the way that one is participating and acting out in life, and helping you to create a concept of self in life that is of a higher self, a higher angelic self. And when you have that concept of yourself, then the value starts to kick in to unfold, because it's really a slight adjustment into recognizing when you're just lost in the drama versus when you recognize you're playing a role in the drama. And that is when everything really starts to move financially. Now let's actually talk about what one can do to actually make money, right, in the placement where Venus is, but also the second house. Okay, so people who have Venus and Leo can be really well-known entertainers or presenters, and this could be something that you can seek certain opportunities for outside of what you're already doing, or to enhance what you are already doing. For example, let's use an idea of a restaurant. The sign Cancer and Leo and Taurus, they're all connected to restaurants. So let's say that you're working in a restaurant. Venus and Leo would work best in the front of the house, meaning like the person that people greet or the person that leads the event or the parties, because Leo really requires that type of stamina and energy to be vibrant and bright for long periods of time. So you being a presenter in any arena of work is going to really amplify your ability to make money. And when you think about anything that you might be building up from the ground up, or if you're a part of anything like that, then you want to use your Venus energy to be the face of it, or the presenter of it. This will allow for you to actually pull in natural talents that you have. And it kind of gives like a shortcut, not a strong one. Like, you still got to have really good products. You still got to do, it still has to be those, high quality things that make people want to buy, right? That is Venus. But a lot of your energy can make it very persuasive for people to want to buy if you utilize that stamina and that ability to shine bright. In the ninth house, this could be about tapping into cultural ways of marketing and publishing that are connected to you naturally. So if you're part of any cultures specifically, or even if they're not your own, that does not quite matter. But if they're intriguing to you, they have to be, of course, lulling and pulling towards you. But really understanding the needs of different cultures will also help to position you for better finances in life. When we look at your second house now, this is the house of Venus, right? And so the second house is connected to production. It's a natural home of Taurus. Taurus is a house of produce, because Taurus is the sign of production and produce in the spring. And the second house is connected to our resources, the natural talents that we have. So Venus is as well. This is why we just covered Venus and Leo being a really good presenter. But in the second house, we can tap more into your natural resources and utilizing your natural resources to make produce or products, right? The word produce, products, or production. All of these words are connected to the second house. With Capricorn here, it can hint that you are connected to production that might be old school or traditional. And your ways of production are also systematic and require you to have a good amount of patience to conjure up. So this is not a placement where somebody makes something overnight. This is a placement, I mean, you do have Uranus here. So while I say it's not typically that, Uranus can speed things up. But this placement naturally creates products over a certain amount of time, allowing things to marinate, to solidify ideas, and to then bring them out into the world. So a lot of people only see the second house as a space where people cut your checks. But it's that and then some, okay? So let's just talk about people who cut your checks as a sideways move, because that's cliche for the second house. That typically working for older businesses would work well for you. People, like if somebody's interviewing you or if you're looking for a new job, you probably would work well with establishments that have been around for decades versus ones that are like startups. Again, there is an exception because you have Uranus here. Uranus does make some certain exceptions at certain points. But overall, this would be places that have, again, already a system in place, right? And then when you're hired to work for them, it's actually a lot of certainty that comes with this. With Capricorn in the second house, we're looking for hard work, but certainty. Not hard work, blind hard work, but hard work with certainty. Now, with Uranus in the second house, this could be, because you have this here, you could be someone who does set up with a place, but then you automatically want to change to another way of making money or a place of work to make money, because Uranus can be erratic. And in the second house, similar to the sixth house, Uranus can also be a freelance worker. So you might get income like from certain places for a certain amount of time, then that ends, and then you get it from another place. Uranus can create that in the second house. Now, with Aquarius being a part of your second house, this also hints to production, like things that you can create that are also connected to old school trends, a newer version of something old. You have Uranus and Aquarius influencing your second house. This is pretty this is pretty strong dominant energy in wanting the Aquarian progressive modern technology to be a part of your production. So you might find yourself working with things that are connected to things that people would say are from the future or for the future. But this is also innovation. So these placements will look at how people made money in the past and take the best of that and make a new version of that. Because you have Capricorn and Aquarius in your second house. A lot of this has to do with how things were made in the past, how people made money in the past. In fact, with these positions, you could probably study and do a whole thesis on it, because these positions are very well studied positions, Capricorn and Aquarius, and they're very ambitious. You're very ambitious about your money, and you're not necessarily looking for shortcuts. So, these placements in your chart are looking for long money, old money. So you could also be really somebody who's focused on making money for the next couple of generations after you. If you find that you're not tapped into this energy, it's very much so possible that you're not as tapped into your second house energy. You might actually find yourself working for old establishments, letting them figure out what your end game is going to be. And if that's the case, that's fine, because this placement would support that. But Uranus energy does want to like amp things up a bit. Uranus in your second house and Aquarius here. And because we have Pluto now in Aquarius, and Pluto has been in your second house for a few years now, it looks like Pluto is taking out a lot of toxic behavior when it comes to you and money. This might be how you spend money or how money comes as income. So if you're spending it in a way that isn't very empowering to you, this might be a time where that exposes itself. But it's also definitely a time where if you're getting money from certain jobs or circumstances that aren't fulfilling to you, that also might find its way to the end during this Pluto transit. And because Pluto just moves into Aquarius, this could be Pluto still moving through your chart for the next 5 to 6, 7 years. So you're undergoing a major transformation. This could be one where you make incredible amounts of money and completely change your life around, because Pluto is a transformative energy, which would mean that it's bringing you from one state to another. And so there's a need to really understand how money works systematically, again, as an overall overview, and how money works in the ways of how the old and how they did it traditionally. So it's really important for you to not negate history with this placement. And it's not about erasing history, and it's not about repeating history, because a lot of people will do that too. Uranus energy, if you had Saturn here, I might say, okay, go ahead and repeat it. But with Uranus here, it feels like you're just taking the best of what worked and leaving the rest behind. So really get more connected to studying money, understanding the history of money, and pulling yourself towards those energies. With Neptune here, you can drain yourself of the wrong energy when it comes to money. But if you drain it, Neptune and Capricorn, through studying it, if you drain your energy, your time through studying, this could actually completely change Neptune's position in your second house. Because sometimes Neptune is a drain of money in the sense that we can never really hold on to it in the second house. But if you're draining your energy into making money, well, that's using Neptune in a different way. Now, I was saying lastly that the second house is a house of production. With Neptune here, I have to say that this could also be someone who's a filmmaker, a photography maker, or like a scrapbooking hobby or production that turns into a production or a photo album or something like that, modeling, because Neptune adds those like needs to capture something and preserve something. So, and any sort of form where people can capture something and preserve it would be something that would enhance and manifest more money for you. So, I hope that this will serve you on your journey, and thank you so much for letting me read for you. Peace and love.